Hello, everyone. Let's really quickly react to this. It's a short that popped up in my YouTube feed, and I actually don't know exactly what it is about, other than the title is saying CrossFit is just as dangerous as never moving. So I'm haggard, just woke up. Let's try to be positive. Let's see what this is. Here we go. I'm going to learn about it with you.
Is just as dangerous as the people who never move at all. Why? Because chaos is not programming, fatigue is not adaptation, and killing yourself in a workout is not what.
Okay. It's hard to take it seriously because these are probably the worst arguments against CrossFit. I think there are legitimate arguments about what we do. But in terms of chaos, is not programming. This is correct. CrossFit, however, is not chaos. CrossFit is an intended plan and guideline for variance. So chaos is absolutely not programming. This is just a person who's looked at CrossFit from the outside and assumed that it was chaos, or has seen other YouTube videos that say that. And then the fatigue is not adaptation. She's correct there as well. But CrossFit is also not just fatigue. It is about stressing the biology in different ways across the 10 general physical skills, as well as the energy pathways and all those things to achieve an intended adaptation via rest and recovery. All of this is built into the CrossFit programming. So she, while saying true things, is also not describing CrossFit so far. Let's hear what else she has to say.
Movement is supposed to be. What it's actually become is a cult. People smashing themselves with random workouts day after day, worshipping intensity like it's the holy grail.
There are very cult-like features to CrossFit. Special languages, people very passionate about it. A lot of people doing it who don't understand it. I would agree in those terms. There are what she just said about people smashing themselves in random workouts. It's just that is untrue. And the interesting thing is that, like, even if a workout feels random, that doesn't mean it is random, but even if it feels random, there is adaptation to be had there just via exposure to things that are difficult. So most untrained people, when you expose them to anything, are going to see an adaptation. Now, in the case of CrossFit, the adaptation is very intentional across variants, which is why it's not random. But even if her argument here is saying that it is random, and say she was correct, you would still see a lot of tremendous change in the people who did it because they are doing hard things and they're doing them often and they are passionate about them. That is not the case, but that is even with her argument, it's not there. Now, in addition to that, she talked about worshiping intensity. We do tend to worship intensity, but not like it is a god. We use it as a tool. Intensity being force production. So basically force times distance divided by time. Power production is what I meant to say, not force production. Force production is part of that. And the reason that we worship power production, or which is a synonym for intensity, it's not a synonym. It's power production is intensity. That's if we're talking about exercise science and we're talking about what intensity actually is via the definition of exercise science, then yes, we do worship power production. And the reason for that is power production drives adaptation. So when we see higher power production across different movements for an individual, we see more adaptation quicker. Now, is it the only thing that we do? No, but we definitely use it as a tool for creating change in the people who walk through our doors in an intended plan and guideline, not chaos. But let's see what she has to say.
They think that if they crawl out of the gym, if they can barely drive home or sit on the toilet seat, they've won. But
nobody as a programmer is thinking that per se. But I would say that there's validity to that. A lot of people who come to the gym, if they leave the gym quite tired, they feel successful in what they've done. I don't think that's wrong per se, because the effort that you put in there, because it was so exhausting, is oftentimes associated with a tremendous amount of work that has been done by your physiology, which eventually you are less and less exhausted as you leave the gym, to some degree, because things do get harder. But that allows you to live a higher quality of life just in general.
But all they've really done is break themselves down even further. And here's the truth that no one wants to hear. The regular Joe Blow from down the block, the guy who can't even touch his own toes or scratch his own back, has no business snatching a barbell overhead.
So her point of the video was it's just as dangerous as never moving. I hope she gets around to that. But she's saying that the regular Joe Blow who can't do all these things has no business snatching overhead. And you're right. You wouldn't take that person and just make them snatch overhead. You would teach them all kinds of body mechanics and movements. And just because they currently have no business snatching overhead, the idea would be that if they had the cognitive ability, the neurological capacity, as well as the physiology to take a barbell from the ground and pop it overhead, that would mean they were a more capable human. So we would have worked them to that point. The idea being that a human can learn and grow and adapt and change. And that is the goal of CrossFit, is to be the best version of yourself. So while they might not have that business now, the goal would be to eventually get them to have that business. And she's making it out like that type of person would never have this. It's actually not. It's not a difficult or a long process for someone to get there. Human beings are so by nature adaptable, and it's very easy to kind of move through that. So let's watch.
He has no business doing keeping pull-ups. These movements demand...
You're right. But eventually it would be something where he would move into that through strict pull-ups and through other things. They would eventually have the business doing it. They wouldn't stay as that Joe Blow the entire time, which is the point of training, is that you get better.
precision, mobility, control, and yet...
So they demand these things, and yes, that is exactly correct. And we would eventually work our way towards giving people those things: precision, agility, control, precision. I think she said that.
CrossFit throws them at the people who can't even squat full depth. That is not training.
She might have a point where there are occasional people who suck at range of motion in the squat who get given other movements, but by no means is that a standard from within CrossFit.
That's demolition. That is fragility dressed up as toughness.
I don't know what the fragility is. And I also, when she's talking here and she's saying like, it's just as dangerous as never moving, I think that's just like a marketing ploy. I don't know who she is. I likely won't be listening to the full episode. She seems pretty inflammatory for inflammatory's sake. I do like her sweet hat, but yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about, and she's trying to get clicks and views, which I'm kind of giving her here. And I'm guessing in her comments she's got a lot of people validating her. And so that's all we got. Well, fun responding with you guys in this episode of In Defense of Fitness. Easy one to unpack there. Not much validity to what she had to say. And I do wish her the best in the future, though. And if she ever wants to understand CrossFit, I'd happily give her a breakdown of the validity of it as a training methodology.